Hello and welcome. Today is International Women's Day and we have the pleasure of talking to Jackie Brown. Jackie is the Assistant Director for Adult Social Care here in Medway, and we wanted to hear how Jackie has coped with the pressures of the pandemic in her job and hopefully to give inspiration to other women who might be listening. So welcome Jackie, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Maggie.
You're very welcome. Thank you for doing it. Jackie, obviously I know a little bit about you already, but for the people that are dropping into this, are you able to tell us a little bit about what you do in a day?
Of course I can, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. So I think one of the things I just thought about is I always try and like to think about how things work from a personal perspective as well, so that people understand that, yes, this is my role and it's really important, but actually I'm a Medway resident. I was born in Medway, I've lived in Medway all my life, so actually really feel passionate about Medway the place and the role of Assistant Director for Adult Social Care. I'm absolutely delighted to have been appointed. From a personal point of view, I've been married for 27 years. I've got 2 grown-up children, 3 dogs and a cat. So I'm always busy. Pretty busy, absolutely, yeah. And I've been assistant director for Adult Social Care in Medway since November in 2020. Yeah, I've worked for Medway Council since its formation, but actually in adult social care for 17 years. So I've spent a lot of time working with different teams and so on and so forth. I think if we talk about my job and what do I do in a day, it's just a different raft of things. And I think it's probably different now as it would have been, before the pandemic. So it would have been lots of face-to-face meetings and going to see different people. But this time, actually, most of it is done on Teams or by telephone calls. So I think I could safely say I attend a range of meetings throughout the day, in regular communication with lots of different people throughout the day. So, for example, meetings are things like the Kent and Medway Safeguarding Adults Board. I meet with teams or managers to talk about, service users where they've got some really difficult and complex cases and to sort of think and talk through about things that are happening. I have regular finance meetings, which is great.
Love finance meetings.
Yeah. And I think really importantly over the last few months, been having daily meetings with our health and social care partners across Kent and Medway. And that's really effectively to make sure that we're supporting the hospitals so that, we can get patients discharged safely and really doing our part for the system.
Gosh, what a handful. So thinking about International Women's Day, what does it mean to you? I mean, is there a female role model that you have that inspires you? Share your thoughts, Jackie.
Okay, yeah. So I think from the International Women's Day, I suppose from itself, for me, it's about celebrating women's achievements and successes. I think we should celebrate things more. We sometimes tend to have a bit of a downward spiral on what do you do? I'm a stay-at-home mum. Actually, that's a good thing. If you're a stay-at-home mum, it's fantastic. Celebrate it. If you own your own business, brilliant. Celebrate it. If you work part-time, you work full-time, you're a working mum, whatever it is superb. So let's celebrate it. It doesn't mean because we all do different things that any of us are different, better or whatever than each other, different circumstances in different places. So for me, that's a really important thing. It's about recognising what women have done in the past to get us to where we are today. And I think going forward, it's about what we can do to influence young women, young girls, daughters, whoever, to bring their confidence up and to think about how we influence behaviours and smash stereotypes. It's really interesting. I think, we are amazing. Women are amazing. And I think we need to recognise it in ourselves, but also be recognised by others. So that's what I would say it means for me.
That's such a strong message, Jackie.
Thank you. I think you said about role models as well.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I couldn't think of anyone famous, if I'm completely honest.
It doesn't have to be famous. It's anybody that's inspired you. It could be a teacher from when you were at school. Anybody.
So
it could be somebody you work with now.
yeah, there's a few actually. In fairness, so there's a couple. So I've got some really strong, I'd say, like girlfriends, and one in particular. Over the last sort of 5 years, she's had a horrendous time in her life. It's resulted in mental ill health. And I watched her spiral downwards. And actually what I've seen is her rebuild her life over the last few years, and watching that happen as an independent, strong woman whose confidence is re-emerging in the workforce. She's been amazing. She doesn't see it, so it's having to tell her that she is. So she's one from a friend point of view. And I'm going to name drop a couple of people now, and I have checked that I can. So just to let you know.
Always best to check.
So Helen Jones used to be the Assistant Director for Commissioning Business and Intelligence in Medway Council. She was my former line manager. I think the only way I can explain her is she's an amazing whirlwind of a woman. I mean, literally a force to be reckoned with. She was hardworking but fun. She always strived and wanted the best for Medway's residents, and she pushed us to achieve that. But we laughed while we did it. You know, there were challenging times and sometimes tricky times, but actually that laughter made things seem more achievable. And I think if I was going to talk about somebody now, then it's Ruth Delou. And Ruth Delou is the Assistant Director of Frontline Services. Now, her role meant that when the pandemic arrived, she converted to what we called a COVID-19 tactical commander. She has been epic. I mean, absolutely epic. Medway Council's had to change the way it's worked and deliver services in a couple of days and sometimes overnight. And usually there's a whole process you have to get through, but we needed to support Medway residents, and Ruth has led it and she's coordinated it. And I'd like to say that actually everyone in Medway Council has worked so hard over the last year, and I'm absolutely proud to be part of it. But Ruth is phenomenal, and she has been an absolute inspiration.
Oh, thank you for that, Jackie. And I'm sure that they would think exactly the same of you and the role that you're doing.
Thank you.
So thinking about where you are now and where you came from, is there anything that you would give, any advice you would give your younger self?
Yeah. and it's probably
that you can share.
Yeah. It's probably a cliche, but I am a worry. I've always been a worrier. That's just my genetics. It's the way I'm made up, and I've learned actually now that actually I'm nearly 50, and so I've learned ways of dealing with it. So if I was talking to myself as a younger person, it would just stop worrying about everyone else and everything else. Don't you waste your time on unimportant stuff, and go with your gut. Go with your gut, because it's usually right. And as I just said, I'm not afraid to say that I'm 50 this year. And actually, thinking about it, it's probably only been in the last 10 years that I think I've come to terms with the fact that if people like me, they like me. It isn't for any other reason than that, because of who I am. Yeah. So that's what I'd say. And then the other thing I'd also say is, and if my dad was sitting next to me, look after my cars better. Like, that's something, I would absolutely do, because I've not looked after them and I've gone through them. So that's the other thing.
Oh dear. Yeah, I think my dad would be with you on that one. Oh dear. So Jackie, you are responsible for thousands of residents, vulnerable people, if you like, during the pandemic. Well, outside of the pandemic anyway. What's it actually been like for you?
Okay. So I think I need to reflect on the fact that I've only been in post since November, and I arrived in post the day after Boris announced that Kent and Medway were in Tier 4. So I hit the ground. I did hit the ground running. And I think that one of the biggest challenges for me has been about how I communicate with the teams. How do we keep in touch, because we're not in the office, and so on and so forth. And actually joining calls with the hospital and understanding that the pressures that they were under. And I think, our part in that's been something that, I've found really challenging. But if I go back to the fact that, as I say, that I've been doing it since November, what I have to say is about the team. Adult social care, they've been doing this for a year. So my management team, I'm going to probably name drop, but forget some. So social workers, my social care officers, our occupational therapists, partnership commissioning colleagues, placement team, everyone in adult social care has been under pressure, had to work in different ways to make sure vulnerable people are going to continue to be supported. And obviously, if there's safeguarding concerns, making sure that they continue to be reviewed. And whereas that might have been done in the past face-to-face, some of these have had to be done by video call or video assessments or telephone calls. The service has been amazing, absolutely amazing, and I can't thank them enough. But I think, have to add in, importantly, about our providers. So if you think about residential homes, home care, personal assistants, day centres, shared lives carers, the voluntary community sector, domiciliary, yeah, absolutely. And everyone's continued to support people, and they've had to place themselves under immense pressure doing that. We know of stories where people have actually stayed in residential homes to make sure that there's enough staff and so on and so forth. So I think, yes, yeah, it is a challenging and pressured job. This has been a huge bit of teamwork, and I just have to say thanks to everybody, really.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. I think when you look at Medway as a whole and how the community came together and all the voluntary sector, it absolutely has been amazing. And
yeah,
like you, I'm a Medway resident, and I'm actually quite proud of what we've achieved.
Yep.
So yeah, totally
Absolutely.
with you on that one. So if somebody's out there listening or watching to this right now and they need help, what should they do? Is the service? I know it's not back to the way it was running pre-pandemic, but how would they access help and support?
So still access in the same way that they used to. I mean, the easy thing for me to say is go onto a web browser, go onto Google or Edge or something and type in Medway Council Adult Social Care, and that will bring up a lot of information. There's an email address. I'll say it, but I can pass that on to you as well, which is ss.accessandinfo@medway.gov.uk, or phone us on our number, which is 334466.
I can share those.
Lovely, that's fab, thank you. I think, one of the things we'd have to consider is that we would not, maybe that we signpost people doesn't necessarily mean that somebody will be eligible for adult social care support, but we will sign people to get maybe befriending services and things like that. I think the other thing that I've been thinking about, and this is some of the things that we've been seeing and we've been hearing about, is actually the impact that the pandemic has had on people's mental health. And I would say, and I think it's important to say, that if people are experiencing ill mental health, then they do need to contact our community mental health teams. And if feeling in a very difficult stage, ring the Samaritans. I just think, we are seeing an impact this is happening, and people need to recognise it.
Yes, no, I absolutely echo that there are support services out there, and it's okay not to be okay, and pick up that phone, speak to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And my final question, obviously, we've had the roadmap from our Prime Minister about potentially visiting might start in care homes. How are Medway handling that?
Okay,
I know it's not going to happen soon, but
some are. So so you're right. The government's introduced the plans, and the intentions that it should be from the 8th of March, which is Monday. And homes are managing this, so it will be homes that contact families directly. I think that the thing to think about and remember is that there are still going to be procedures that need to be followed. And so if people are able to visit, and the understanding is that it's going to be one person that is going to be able to go into the home, but they're going to have to wear PPE and have the test and so on and so forth, just urging people to follow those extra safety measures. It's really fantastic news that this is happening. I can say that my brother's in a residential home in Medway. I haven't seen him since June. So I cannot wait to be able to go and see him. So I can understand that people will be feeling exactly the same. So care homes will be contacting people. I do know that some people have already received letters, so I should imagine they'll start coming through the door soon. And I think all we would do is urge you to remain vigilant and take note of what they're saying, so that we can try and keep the pandemic in the way it's going.
Yes, we do want to keep those numbers going down, don't we, in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was my last question, Jackie. I didn't know if there was anything else that you wanted to share before.
No, I don't think there's nothing specific. I think, it's been a challenging time for everybody. Recognising the immense pressure that the NHS has been under. I think everybody knows that. I think it's important that we recognise that has been a pressure for social care as well, adult social care as well. And just saying again, thanks to everybody for all the hard work and support that they've done.
No, thank you very much for that. So I just want to say thank you very much for joining us on International Women's Day, Jackie.
Thank you.
It's all about celebrating strong women, their achievements, and supporting people to take action for equality. I think you're a great role model, and Medway Council is lucky to have you in post.
Thank you.
It's been great to hear from you, and I have no doubt you'll inspire the next generation of women that want to come into your field of work and aim to hit the mark that you have.
Lovely. Thanks ever so much, Maggie. Cheers.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.